All right, if you like this podcast, make sure you leave us 5 stars on your favorite streaming service. Also, leave us a little review. That would help us out a lot. Also, if you want more exclusive content, make sure you visit patreon.com/submittinglife, and you can join our tiers. We have different tiers depending on how much you guys want to donate to the podcast. And you get exclusive information. You get behind-the-scenes episodes and some awesome content made by me and Ty exclusively for you guys. So make sure you follow those 2 out, and also follow us on social media. All right, here's the episode.
It's the Submitting Life Podcast with Chase Hill and Ty Gay. Hello, everybody. It's Chase and Ty from the Submitting Life Podcast. We're back.
We are back.
Our special guest today is,
What?
I guess, is us. We're the
Nobody.
special guest. You're my special guest.
What kind of special?
Short bus kind of special. Probably going to get in trouble for that comment.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
So I'm trying not to offend anybody, and I will try my hardest. But if you know me, it's really fucking hard. So
No guarantees.
so I apologize in advance for all of the people who will be butthurt about whatever I might say. It's okay.
Can you say butthurt?
I think I did.
What, is that not going to offend somebody eventually?
Probably.
You were talking about how your last name offends people.
Yeah, I make fun of my last name sometimes, and that is offending people now. So I'm sorry. Sorry. I think there's a lot of things that are funny to me, like almost everything.
I feel like you, of all people, though, would have a right.
Because my last name is gay? Yes,
Yeah.
seems like it.
I mean,
I don't know, man.
but, you know, they'll make innuendos and accusations about.
Whatever. Like Joe Rogan says, this is what happens when you don't have to chase after your food for so long. It's like
Agreed.
there's a lot of extra time on our plates instead of, us running around trying to put food on there.
Try and do it. Yeah, exactly. So, we don't have a guest today. What have you been up to?
What is that thing that we've been doing? Jiu-jitsu.
That stuff.
That's what I typically do the most.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that's really been it. Just busting my ass with that, and then trying to do video stuff. I'm learning how to edit and do videography. And I am, when people come in and they don't have a white belt yet, that's me in videography. Like, I have though accomplished this. I've figured out how to do everything you're not supposed to do, or at least most of the things you're not supposed to do already, and I've done them, and I keep doing them repetitively. So that's how good I am.
Yeah, you figure out what works and what doesn't work.
That's why we have Travis here. So you say, don't see me doing all this shit, do you?
No, or me. That would not be good.
I did though, however, hook up the phone for the Patreon thing, so you're welcome.
And yes.
Skill.
So if you're a Patreon member, you may notice that we're having to stream through Redline's YouTube page. That's because YouTube has new rules.
Thanks.
Thanks, YouTube. YouTube now. Oh man, do you think this is gonna get flagged on YouTube if we're talking about YouTube? We're not monetized anyway. Yeah. We don't have any subscribers.
We can't even get monetized.
Yeah. So apparently YouTube now, if you don't have over 1,000 subscribers, you can't stream. You can't go live through a mobile device. So this is now through Redline. So if you're a Patreon member, you gotta look through Redline. But the good thing about Patreon is if you just go to Patreon, it will automatically pop up to you. You don't have to search it or anything.
And I mean, it wouldn't hurt you to go to our Redline page anyway.
No.
It's pretty fun over there.
We have about 13,000 subscribers on that.
It's okay. It's maybe not as comical as our podcast and whatever else we do, but it is some serious jiu-jitsu.
There's a lot of serious jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
We started making that, how long ago was that? Was that 6 years ago? 6 years ago that we started doing that?
Something like that, yeah.
Why did you want to start making videos?
Hedon Gracie told me to do it.
Did
I was a brown belt, and he was like, you need to start making videos now. This is make a name for yourself now.
Well, do you think that he gave you that advice because they were kind of one of the first people to kind of use the internet for jiu-jitsu? Sure. Like, I mean, there were several other people.
And I think he knows I'm kind of a ham. And so I do stuff on video, and it, I won't say it works, but it works for me. And so, yeah, he just kind of pushed me to do that. And I really didn't have the confidence to do that kind of stuff back then. As far as like teaching jiu-jitsu on a platform like that, I was more into like doing moves and having somebody videotape them and just having like a cool move, but like teaching it online. But I was already pretty comfortable teaching, to the school and stuff. And so it was a kind of a natural progression. Did it a little bit, and then just one thing led to another. I did stop doing it for a while just because I had so much stuff going on with my band and stuff. There was just not enough time. And then we've been creating curriculum, as you know, so that's taken a bit of time away from just doing random YouTube videos for the jiu-jitsu community, although I love doing them.
It's pretty cool to see, though, because I remember when we first started doing that, it just kind of weird. I think we were doing like one video a week. We shot a bunch, but we were just kind of releasing one video a week. And now we go back and we look at some of those first videos. They've got like 30,000 views. There's a couple that have a lot more. But I mean, like some of the older ones that aren't the more popular ones, it's crazy to see over 6 years how much it has grown. And
we have people come up to us all the time, when we're at seminars or whatever, that have seen some of those things. So I know some of those moves do help people, which is great. And that's my whole shtick in life, really, is to help folks. So great. Worked out great.
Use the internet to, expose other people to other things.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What about you? What have you been doing?
Oh, well, I've been trying to break in my new black belt, So I noticed the other day I already had a little wear on it. It's all right. That's because you teach all your damn classes.
Because I'm not teaching ever again. I'm just going to observe.
Ty literally handed me the belt, was like, all right, good luck. Here, you teach all the classes now. I was like,
yep.
See ya. No.
Not really.
No, just teaching, whatever. I did have a birthday, so now I'm 1 year older. Feel older.
Yeah, you are old, boy.
Fucking old man. Yeah. So, no, nothing too much really. Nothing outside the normal. We've had a couple cool guests on, but now it's just me and you.
Not cool.
But I think we are gonna have possibly have a guest on our next episode.
Yeah, Brandon Quick. That's the idea. So, Brandon, if you come in early enough on Friday, we want to put you on the podcast, buddy.
Yeah. If not, we may.
He said he would do it. It's just making sure that he can do it on that day. Whatever, we'll figure it out.
Which he's coming. Why is he coming?
To do a wonderful seminar at our school on Darce chokes and leg locks.
Chokes and leg locks. And then
my favorite things.
And then where are you going? Aren't you going for seminar?
I am. I'm going to South Bend, Indiana, on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. And leg locks, because my whole seminar is on leg locks. I do a triple stack, 3 seminars in one day. It's going to be pretty intensive. It's going to start out real basic, though, and then we'll get into, we'll start with just basic leg locks, then we'll go to entries into leg locks, then we'll go to combinations of leg locks. And after that, you should have a pretty good understanding of the leg lock game.
Did you pick that topic, or did they request that topic?
I said I could do whatever, and so I have a pretty good system set up for that. And I haven't been there before. And so leg locks right now are kind of, for a lot of schools, are just not that known about. And so I think that it's important. Like I said, I call it Jiu-Jitsu 2.0. I think that it's something that eventually everybody's going to have to be on point with. So if you're not, you're going to get caught up. If not even, don't even learn leg locks just to do leg locks on people, but learn them so you don't get caught in them. That's the main thing. That's why I've always tried to pay good attention to them. But they are fun. And at our school, we don't have any problems with them being dangerous at all. People are constantly saying that heel hooks and stuff are dangerous, but I see that in competition more than I do in the academy. We're never trying to hold it and rip it off. We're just trying to hold it and count to 3, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. We let it go. It means we won. So the thing I have seen hurt people with as far as leg locks go are toe holds. Out of 23 something years of training, that's the one I see hurt people the most in just normal class. It's because the foot gets caught and they kick or something goes weird and it just pops it,
Yeah, and I think the leverage on it is pretty great.
Yeah.
So it's easy to, if you're newer to applying it, I think it's easier to apply too much pressure in the beginning.
100%.
So, but yeah. So any jiu-jitsu news going on that you want to
What about Keenan Cornelius leaving Altos?
Atos.
Atos.
Andre Galval's
Actually, it was under Andre Galval's
request,
right? So
yeah, that's what the article said, at least.
Yeah, whoa. Wonder what's going on there. So I'm sure we'll find out. But
yeah, and it just said that he was not, I guess, in line with how the politics were going around the school. I don't know if that was who was teaching the classes or who was structuring the school or what, but I guess it was the environment.
He's been there for 6 years, I think, right? Something like that.
He's been there for a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so whatever. I wish him the best. Man, I'm sure he'll go off and do great things wherever he's at because he's a monster, He was originally with Lloyd Irving, and then all that stuff came out about, Lloyd Irving and all the rape and stuff that he was accused of at the time. I think he was
Oh, I thought Kenny Cornelius, didn't he like live in like Hawaii or something like that for a little bit?
I think so.
I think he lived and he was training on there. Then he moved to the States when jiu-jitsu became more serious.
You know, I know that when all that stuff went down, a lot of people separated from Lloyd, and he was one of those guys. I think at brown belt because Andre Galval, I believe, gave him his black belt and his first degree.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, stuff happens. You know, people's relationships fall apart and stuff. That's just in any given situation with not just jiu-jitsu, it's just everything. So, whatever. I wish him the best. What else is going on in the jiu-jitsu news? It's happened here recently. Seemed like there was something crazy.
There's been no two big tournaments yet. ADCC's coming up here soon.
Yep. On its way. Yeah, that'll
but
be great.
It'll be more of the fall time. But yeah, I mean, we got some. We can talk about some stuff that people have asked. If you guys don't know, if you're not friends with either me or Ty on Facebook or our Submitting Live page, we typically will always post that we're going to do an episode. And if there's anything you guys want us to talk about, please let us know so we can talk about a few things. Anything on there that looks good?
Let's see here. Somebody wants to know about diet. Well, last night I ordered a pizza. It was pretty amazing. It had pineapple on it and pepperoni, and I know that some people really hate that.
Where'd you order it from?
Pizza Hut.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Pizza Hut? Yeah.
I feel so fat right now just from last night. It's great.
But what kind of diet do you normally eat?
So I don't normally do that. That's every once in a while that I'll try to do this. Here's the trick. It's really about not eating processed stuff like that pizza. You should probably try to stay away from anything that's processed. Stay away from pop and all that stuff. It's just puts on layers of fat, unless that's what you're into.
But you're not eating that stuff all the time. Right.
I eat whole food type stuff all
Yeah.
the time. My wife cooks for me, so I by default I eat really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is either organic or
Are you
whole.
Are you a person that thinks that if you are within reason, because I crave bad stuff all the time, but you gotta have to push it away sometimes. But are you a person that if it's been a little bit,
bro.
What?
Discipline. He's got to be disciplined.
Yeah, I know you got to be disciplined, but are you a person like you did like a pizza last night? Like you're like, man, I haven't had it in a minute, so just forget it. I'm just gonna do it. That's what I want.
I think it's important not to be too strict with
That's what I
whatever
mean.
because you'll fall off and won't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that eating clean makes me feel better, and I'm able to compete, to fight longer and all that kind of stuff. And
Train better.
Yeah, it just makes my training better, and you feel better and all that kind of stuff. And when you have a wife that cooks such amazing food, it's hard not to eat. I can't say that I would be eating as good if she wasn't around. I would probably be going to Taco Bueno or eating the pizza. That's the whole reason the pizza happened, because she was like, I don't feel like cooking tonight. And I was like, pizza.
So there was your window of opportunity.
Yeah. So, but diet is important. And the older that you get, I feel like the more important that it is. If I, like I said, I feel fat right now just from eating the.
Has there any diets that you have specifically, like have you ever gone vegan or vegetarian?
I went vegan for, I don't know, it was a couple of months. And man, I hit a wall I could not get past. And I tried all sorts of supplements and everything else. It just made me feel like shit. And so my cardio felt pretty good when I'd start out. And then I would hit a wall where it was, I don't even know how to describe it. Like there was nothing left. As to where like now I'll hit a wall, but I've still got like this runner's pace that I've hit that I can maintain. But I could not do that when I was a vegan. Now, different people will say, well, you just didn't do it right or whatever. I just don't think that there's a cookie cutter diet for everybody. I think everybody's body's different. Your genetics are different depending on what your parents did and your parents' parents. So I think this whole idea of having a diet is a bad idea because everybody's going to be different. The main thing is don't eat you got to burn calories. So if you eat more calories than you burn, I know it's rocket science.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then you're going to get fat. That's just it. You're going to be unhealthy. You've got to burn those calories off. And if you're not, it's going to accumulate.
Yeah.
It seems like that would be just like easy to understand, but a lot of people just don't get that.
Yeah. The way that I was always taught in school in a very, very, very simplistic mindset was, in case you guys don't know, I actually do physical training for a living. But is like you have a campfire, right? And your campfire is like your metabolism, right? So the more exercise you do, or the more things that you put on top, your campfire grows, right? So the bigger your campfire grows, the more calories you can burn, or the more fat that you burn, or whatever. But there is a point of if your campfire is too big, it turns into like a forest fire. So you can actually have your campfire be too large, and that's where people who maybe train too much, they don't eat enough. So I don't know if you've ever heard of those people too.
Yeah, but
You don't
aren't
have
they
enough
way
calories.
more rare than the others?
They're very more rare. They're very rare. I mean, there's also people that have eating disorders and some things like that.
Sure.
You know,
I'm
but
kind of excluding them. I'm just trying to look at the general population.
General population. But what can happen though is if you've upped your train, like if you're new, especially what happens is people who come to jiu-jitsu, a lot of times they're a sedentary person. So if you come to jiu-jitsu and you're not used to doing that much physical activity, a lot of times people, they're trying to change their life. They're trying to eat better and be healthier in general too. Most people that come into jiu-jitsu, they're trying to make other aspects healthier. And what they do though is because they're on a diet along with training, they will actually, because they were dieting for their sedentary lifestyle. They were not dieting for them now increasing their physical activity too. And so they say, well, I stopped losing weight after I started training jiu-jitsu. And that's probably because a lot of times they're not eating enough calories to continue the weight loss. So they're burning too much. And so their body's hanging on to everything that it can.
Right.
Because they're not feeding enough, right? So their diet was working when they were more sedentary. But then when they increased their physical activity, they're not, adding enough calories. Now, you don't want to be adding those calories of, cheeseburgers and hot dogs and stuff.
Beer and cheese
but,
and
I mean,
milk
a simple
mixed together.
Simple pre-workout of eating,
like it.
handful of nuts and an apple and stuff, that will help you go a long way, because it'll burn that instead of have to hang on to whatever else it needs to hang on to.
Oh, we used to see that when we were cutting a lot of weight. We would cut weight and then we would hit a wall where we couldn't get down lower, and that was probably what was going on. Our body was like, nope.
Well, once to hang on to it, it needs to hang on to it. So it want and two, I generally think there are people that their body will cut weight differently than others.
Oh, that's for sure.
There are some people that can go without water or without food and their body just shrinks down instantly, and there are some people where it's way harder to cut.
Yeah.
It just they hang on to the water or they hang on to the.
What about women? It's way harder for them. I always thought this was
extremely
weird,
hard.
like for like the UFC and stuff, because they have a menstrual cycle, right? And so they weigh more at different times of the month. So that would be super crazy to have to like deal with that.
Their body wants to hold on to it
and like cut all the weight and everything. Oh man, no thanks.
Yeah, I think now though it is nice that the UFC. I don't know. Rogan had a guy on he was head of what they call the Performance Institute there in Vegas. The UFC has built this whole kind of gym, and they have different physicians and trainers and stuff that are on staff, and they actually are now helping like any UFC fighter when they have a fight scheduled. They can schedule a time and they can go there, and these like actual nutritionists and doctors, they have access to these people without like any extra cost to them. So I think you'll start to see the weight loss and the cut and everything become easier for fighters, because they're not, now we've worked with a bunch of smaller name fighters and they're just doing whatever they see on the internet works, or they're just doing their own bro science. They're not working with actual real nutritionists and dietitians and real professionals to cut weight. They're just kind of doing it whatever. But I think at the higher levels now, the education is becoming more and more easy for people to be able to understand. So it's interesting to see.
Yeah, I tried a couple of different. I went just not vegetarian, but not vegan, but vegetarian one time, where I was just trying to eat more plants, and that seemed to work pretty good. But I find that like just eating a ton of like fiber will screw you up too a little bit, So I think for the question about diet is you kind of like have to play with that stuff and figure out what works best for your own.
What works best for you?
Body, yeah, but try to be, what, Twinkies work great for me, and I like pizza and Twinkies on my pizza. Your diet's probably going to work, but just to make you fat.
Yeah.
So
I think the easiest thing is in the beginning when people eat, if they want to change their diet or make their diet better, is just, like you said, don't eat processed food. Just eat real food. Don't worry about the amount that you eat in the beginning. Just try to work on not eating processed food, and then you can
like that pizza.
I think what happens is people try to change their diet too drastically. They go from
for sure
one thing to the other, and they cut out everything
they can't
else.
Do it, and they go right back.
Yeah,
to what
they go
were doing
right back.
before. Yeah, I see that happen.
Most
a lot,
people aren't that disciplined. You can do it, but most people it's not. They need to be eased in. So.
Yeah, you can go 30 days without eating any food, by the way. Isn't that crazy? The human animal can. wouldn't suggest doing that. But you won't die until then.
Probably the bigger you are, the longer you can go.
Probably. Let's see here. Teaching philosophy. What's your teaching philosophy? Just throw rocks at them until they do the right thing?
Punch them in the throat.
Mhm.
Always
Seems to
judo
work.
chops.
Yep. Judo
No.
chop.
Teaching philosophy, I mean, I'm a smaller guy, so I typically teach the stay calm, a lot of the Gracie mentality that you have taught and everything, wait for your time, don't push the pace too much, stay calm, wait for them to burn their energy down. That's my teaching philosophy when I teach techniques. Leverage moves, not big, strong man moves, because I'm not a big, strong man.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's about. I think also it's like, because our school is kind of designed around, it's not, okay, so I'd say this sometimes, like, we're not really trying to make jiu-jitsu world champions, although sometimes that's a byproduct of it. We just are really trying to make, like, life champions, or just a person really better off than they were before, and continue that growth pattern. And it's really important for me to be able to do that for the duration of someone's life. So I don't want to just see somebody in jiu-jitsu for like a little bit. I'd rather see them there for the duration of their life. And so for different people, that means different things, different kinds of training. We've got some 20-year-old killers there that need to train like killers, but there's also some older people there that need to train light and soft. And what's cool about our school is that everybody understands that, and so I can take my 20-year-old killer and put him with my 64-year-old lady, and they can still have a really nice, fun, flowy role, because the killer knows that he could kill the little lady at any time. And she knows that too, but she feels safe enough with him because he understands her limitations and is working with her. And you can always get something out of a student. So if I'm rolling with somebody who's 4 years old, or that is 84 years old, there are things to be learned with each student. And so as when you're just rolling, so if it's a kid, you can't crush a kid. You're not supposed to. And so you have to learn how to keep your weight around the child, right? Or a smaller person. And, when you're training with somebody your level, like say somebody that's a black belt you're training very precise stuff, and it's not, you're not trying to do any crazy new moves on the black belt. But if you're training with, say, somebody your size that's a blue belt, it gives you a training opportunity to try new stuff, try new things, whatever, So each person has an opportunity there to gain from. So that's why the 20-year-old killer will still train with the 64-year-old lady, because he knows there's an opportunity there to get something out of that, So you can get something out of any kind of role. It doesn't always have to be a role to the death. And I used to come from the mindset of that it was that way, and we were called red line, like peaking a tachometer, and so it was very much like that. But later on, you learn more over time that there's things to be learned in any given situation, and anytime I'm on the mat, life is better. So you can be on the mat more if you aren't hurt, or if you have enough training partners. And so if you try to train the right way, by training light with the younger or older people or smaller people, and training hard with the people that you need to, you can stay on the mat for longer. When I used to train super hard all the time, I would get hurt and then be out for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. I've been out for like 6 months at one point where I hurt my knee. And now I'm on the mat way more than that. I may not train as hard as I used to, but I have more longevity, And so I think that's important. And that's what I really want for students, is for them to be able to get that mentality down and be able to be on the mat more for longer. So that's I think the idea behind it.
Yeah, one thing I like to do too, especially since I'm an instructor, I think it was Hedon that he posted a video or like a quote or something, and I read it, and I think it was like I was a purple belt, but I really liked the way he put it, and I've tried to imply it is, he was like, he was saying like when you reach a certain level, let's say like a black belt, for example, and you're rolling with a bunch of students, he has no point in just tapping all the students. He wants it to be that every student that he rolls with, he wants to be the best training partner that time, right? So he wants every student that he rolls with to enjoy that role, and they want to come back and they want to roll with him again. He was like, because there's two different types of roles. There's a role of like, man, he was really good, and I don't really want to roll with him anymore, that, and just
Right.
swarms you or whatever. And then, but then there's some students that, they don't get as much out of just being swarmed or beat up like that.
Yeah.
He wants to be the instructor that the student comes back and is like, man, that was an awesome roll. I still got tapped 5 times, but I was
Right.
able to learn so much of the reason why I got tapped. So he's like, I want everyone that I roll with to have an enjoyable roll. And I remember him saying that, and I was like, man, that's some deep teaching philosophy there, especially if you're an instructor, because I think,
For sure.
as an instructor, you sometimes have to make sure that the students know what's up and they know that, you can smash them and stuff. And I think there's a time and place for that.
Sure.
But I do think more of that mentality, I think, would benefit more students overall. So I know as I've gotten deeper, I've been really trying to do that more. Make every student that I roll with, they
Yes.
enjoy the roll. I don't want them to walk away being like, man, that sucked to roll with him. That was
It makes
terrible.
your jiu-jitsu better because you have to shift gears. You get to see more of jiu-jitsu by doing that. I feel like that you're not just on one gear all the time,
Mm-hmm.
So it's important. If you should pay attention and see who is wanting to roll with you and who is not wanting to roll with you, and that will.
But how
kinda
does a
bring some
student
harsh
know
reality.
that a student doesn't want to roll with them?
You can see when people are dodging you.
Yeah.
If all the
I was just
girls in the
asking-
room
I
are
know that-
dodging you, not asking you to roll, because at
I
our
know
place,
that. I know that.
the girls get to pick who they get to roll with, right? So they'll come up and ask you. If the girls are like avoiding you, maybe you're too rough with the girls or the
Correct.
kids or whatever it is,
Yeah.
So pay attention, So yeah, your life can be on the mat longer if more people like you being on the mat, So
Do you like
run out of training partners? It's hard to train.
would you even recommend that if you're, let's say you're a person and you're like, man, maybe people do avoid me. Do you think that a person, after they roll, should they ask, like, hey, how was that roll?
Sure.
Give me honest feedback. Like, was I too rough? Was I going too hard?
Yep. I think
Like-
that's a good idea.
But do you think, how you think they should do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's sometimes if you're the lower belt rolling with the upper belt, I think that's hard for the lower belt sometimes to ask the upper belt. We make it very open at our school,
Yeah.
but I think at a lot of other schools, the lower belt doesn't want to ask the upper belt,
Man,
how was that roll?
Sometimes
was
there's
it
none of
good?
this at all. Sometimes people are just trying to kill each other all the time, and that's just how it is. There's a lot of schools that are like that, and that's okay. There's time and place for everything, and I think different people want different things.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's just how it is. Here's the thing that I don't like that happens is people go into a school that's straight killers and they get a horrible taste in their mouth. They're like, oh, that sucked. I've got my ass kicked by everybody, and it was horrible and humiliating. And then they don't want to train ever again. We've had people come to the school that are like that. They're super apprehensive, that just barely came in because they're just going to give it one more shot and then fell in love with it. And we're kind of nerdy with jiu-jitsu. We have a basics program that's very we go deep down the rabbit hole with this stuff in basics. And so some people really, really like that. They want an academic kind of feel to things before they get thrown into the sharks, so to speak, And so I think that's giving your students more staying power for the most part. That's just my own personal opinion about the business model, but maybe somebody out there, I know, look at John Danaher. He's not running anything like that. They're running just crazy classes, packed full, and that's great. And they're straight killers killing each other. Ish. Those guys are not always killing each other. That's a totally different topic. But still, they don't have to do that in their community to keep people in there, to keep people in. What we come in contact with more than anything else aren't people that have sought us out because they're going to be, they want to come in with these killers. It's people that are looking to do self-defense. They're looking to do something with their family, and martial arts kind of scares them. There's a group of people that are like that totally get left out, right, of jiu-jitsu. And so, although our basics class works for anybody, you could be a Division I wrestler and come in there and get a lot out of it and move through it faster than the normal average person. It allows a normal average person to come in that wouldn't normally do this, doesn't have body awareness or any of that kind of stuff. And that's the majority of people that are out there. The majority of people don't come in with skill already, even if they think they have skill typically. So I think that little beginners program is good for that, but it's not for everybody. There's places out there. I'm sure there's guys that want to go into a gym where Andre Gervalt or whoever is killing them. And that's good.
I enjoy that.
Everything has a place. So,
I think the culture does need to be set. It needs to be. It's hard to do both.
Yes.
It's very hard to do both, because then you start to have a group of guys that or girls, either one, should have groups of students that favor one more versus the other.
Right.
It's almost like they kind of compete against each other. That's my own personal opinion. There may be schools out there where it's not like that, but I've not been made aware of any. So,
let's see here. Please speak about training with lower belts. We kind of did that. Do you always let them dictate the pace when rolling? So white belts are dangerous. You can't let them dictate the pace too much. You got to kind of rivet them to the floor. They're typically the people that elbow me in the face the most.
Knees in the face.
Kids and white belts.
White belts, yep.
Man, so sometimes as opposed to letting them dictate the pace because it will be fast and furious, you kind of have to slow them down, I feel like. Everybody's different, though. It's, conditioning workouts for long-term rolling. Rolling.
Yes. Yeah.
So you maybe could run from your car into the mat faster. Then you'd be rolling longer. See? See how that works?
Jiu-jitsu is interesting because it uses both energy systems. It uses your aerobic system and your anaerobic system. So, a lot of times they tell you to train when you talk about athletes, quote unquote, training for jiu-jitsu, because now we're talking about athletes, right? To train whichever system, that sport requires more. So, for example, like basketball, because you're running and stopping a lot, that's your anaerobic system.
Sure.
But long-term running, just running straight, is your aerobic system. And jiu-jitsu is kind of both, because even though we're doing 5-minute rounds, that seems like, but it's not just 5 minutes of pushing the pace. It's
right.
5 minutes of kind of stop and go. So I'd lean toward more it's anaerobic, but we roll all the time. We roll 10-minute rounds. So
sometimes for hours.
So you have to have a aerobic system too. So I've tried a bunch of different ways. I've tried long term. I've tried short term. I've talked to people who are way smarter than me in this field and people like you who have experience, and it seems like rolling. You can do some weightlifting and you can do some running on your own, and that will definitely not hurt.
Sure.
But if you just go run and don't do jiu-jitsu for like 2 weeks, your jiu-jitsu cardio will not be as good.
Somebody asked, what are some home workouts outside of training? That's your specialty right there. So what would you say to somebody that's doing some stuff in the morning?
Well, I guess the way that I would break that down is, are you wanting to become more physical? So are you wanting to become stronger?
Probably.
So is your home workout for strength, or is your home workout for, like that last question, a cardio?
Should be kind of both, right?
I tend to lean.
So now we're moving up into the same question before. So I think home workouts, just get a mat and roll.
I tend to think like if you're just doing home workouts, unless you have a bunch of equipment, unless you've got dumbbells, kettlebells, some extra equipment, then you're pretty much limited to body weight exercises.
Right. Yoga.
Dude,
I suck at yoga, by the way. I'm the worst yogi out there.
Horrible. Yeah.
It's bad. Like, you would expect me to have a better yoga.
Yeah.
And it's not. It is. My wife's great. But, man, it hurts me. I've been hurting yoga, and I've done yoga less. I've been hurting yoga more than I have been in jiu-jitsu. I would say. My knee was hurt pretty bad.
I think a lot of times yoga, it's good because you're having to hold positions. You're having to do what's called like isometric holds, where basically you're just holding positions. But sometimes, as you know, I'm not an expert in yoga, and I know Jen does it a lot, but if your body position's just kind of off a little bit,
apparently,
and you're holding it for too long, it can suck. It's challenging, but it can also suck if you're kind of bending too much at certain positions.
I went with her to this yoga place, and there was like all these wonderful, nice little old ladies there, and I was like holding some pose or whatever, and I guess I sweat more than the average person. I have hyperhidrosis. This poor little old lady, she hands me her towel because I was sweating so much that it was like running towards her. She's trying to soak up my sweat. So I don't know. Yoga might not be for me.
But
involuntary yoga.
I would generally say jiu-jitsu works best if you're just at home and you're wanting to do something. Jiu-jitsu is push-pull. So we push stuff and we pull stuff. So if you had to structure an exercises and you wanted to do it, for example, you could do push-ups and then pull-ups. You're pushing and pulling. So
simple.
Do simple things like that. If you're going to do your legs, do some squats and then work your your posterior chain, like your hamstrings and your glutes. So push pull. So what think about grips. I push somebody and then they push back into me, so I pull them. That's all jiu-jitsu is the whole time, is push pull. Even that's how our body works, and that's what it wants to do. So structure your exercise with pushes and pulls. So think about all those kinds of movements. But there's not just one exercise that you can do. It's not like only pull-ups. If I only do pull-ups, my jiu-jitsu is going to be better. Or only push-ups, my jiu-jitsu is going to be better. I tend to lean to the side of having a little bit more working out. Resistance training will probably benefit you because your muscles won't break down maybe as much. They can handle the resistance more. So because the first time you do a 30-minute roll session, you're going to be sore. You're going to be tired. So if you can kind of condition them and do a little bit of extra stuff on your own, then it will definitely benefit you. But you're going to get it from just doing jiu-jitsu itself. So, but I think the best conditioning for jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu.
Probably jiu-jitsu,
100%.
So our buddy Scott says, best ways to build cardio if you have 3 kids in no time. Maybe start chasing them.
Yeah. You ever seen Rocky that chases the chicken around?
That's right.
That's it right there.
Have them all run in separate directions and chase them.
Chase them.
Solo drills for home. There are a bunch of those online. I would just go to YouTube and YouTube solo drills for BJJ.
There's a bunch
of sit-out drills, different animal movement drills, and all sorts of great stuff that's out there.
And a lot of times that's resistance training. Your body, you have to hold your body up and do all these things, or put your weight on your shoulders and engage your stomach muscles. I mean, like that's all workouts. That's resistance training.
I'm way better at that than yoga.
Yeah. So I mean, if you can find a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, there's tons of it on YouTube. Just YouTube BJJ solo drills.
But is there any though? I think what they're wanting to know is there any ones that you do at home outside the school?
Oh, I don't work out.
Yeah.
I eat pizza. I just told you that earlier. No, I mean I'm always at the academy, so I'm up there at like 8:30 in the morning, then at 11:30, and then at 6:30, and then all the way to 9:30. So it's I'm just always there at the academy teaching private lessons or teaching class or whatever. So that's really what keeps me in shape. And then when I'm at home, me and my wife are doing jiu-jitsu out on our patio. We've got this patio out there, and so we'll go through a bunch of sequences that she's wanting to do. She goes through phases where she'll do stuff 1,000 times, and so she's trying to go through all the John Danaher stuff right now 1,000 times, which is pretty painful on me because I get to have my legs and arms and necks ripped off. It's great. But so I'm a training dummy sometimes. That's my workout.
Mm-hmm. But you're not doing like specific things because you're at the academy so much, right?
I do. I have some stairs and I hang off of my stairs a little bit every day, and it just makes my shoulders feel better. I do that for probably 30 seconds. And I'll do that maybe a couple times a day. So, and that really does help me, though.
But that's not a jiu-jitsu drill.
Well, it's good for your shoulders. If you do jiu-jitsu long enough, you're going to want that. The other thing is cold showers. I start with a warm shower, and I turn it on cold, and I rotisserie chicken myself in there, turn around for about 10 to 20 seconds. And I seem to get something out of that, too. It's like a energy drink, kind of.
I don't take cold showers. I don't know.
I know, man. You don't meditate or take cold showers. I don't know how you made it to black belt under me. So John says, my friend John Bellardo, who we should have on here soon to do our podcast. He knows a lot about nutrition, and he's an eye surgeon. So he's got some cool stories for sure. But he says, what are the experiences of students in self-defense? Stories shared. The one that comes to my mind the most was there was a cop that came in there. It's been a couple of years ago, and he'd only done like 3 or 4 classes. I can't remember, something like that. But one of them was take the back from the guard, and one of the other ones was rear naked choke. And he went on this call where this guy got out of prison. He was this really big Mexican gang guy, and he was drunk on something and started a problem in the apartments. And so my buddy shows up there, and he's by himself, and this guy opens the door and just basically attacks this cop, knocks him down, breaks the cop's femur. So in the fall, this guy's huge, big guy.
That's your giant leg bone, by the way.
Yeah, that's not good, between your knee and your hip and whatnot. So he was able to move around to the dude's back from the guard all the way to the back with a broken femur and eventually secure the rear naked choke. And after he put the guy to sleep, he was able to call for backup. There he came, whatever. But this guy was very angry, and he was saying stuff about killing cops and all sorts of crazy business. So he called me after that and was like, I just want you to know that, I only had those however many 3 or 4 classes, and those classes saved my life. So he'd only been through it once, right? Typically, we don't even want to think about you really having the move down until you've done it at least 3 times. And so that just shows you like how amazing jiu-jitsu really is. He could have had it just one time and still got enough out of it that he could have worked his way to the back of this guy and put him to sleep. If not, with a broken femur and this guy on top of you beating you, you would have been asleep, and then he would have got your gun and he would have shot you and all sorts of stuff. So that's one of the ones I think sticks out the most because of just like how intense it was.
I taught a kid's private today, and he told me that he broke up a fight at school. So
That's impressive.
So that's another one. I think a thing it does for adults. I think it empowers adults too. But I think jiu-jitsu, what's awesome about it is what it does for kids, in the sense of how it gives them the immediate confidence. So the kid actually told me, "Hey, I was able to break up a fight because I knew if I broke it up and stuff, like they turned around on me, I would be okay." So he felt more confident enough to be able to get in there. But he told me that he actually had to break it up twice. So the first time, the kids were yelling at each other, and he basically, they were about to fight, so he stood in between them, and he told them, like, hey, stop, like, total, like, let's be friends, like, totally stopped him. And then he goes, then they got into it again, but I wasn't there to stop them from starting. And then he goes, whenever I showed up, the other kid had the kid in, like, a choke. He had like the kid was wrapped around his arm. I don't think it was like a really good rear naked choke, but he was wrapped around the kid's neck. But he goes, because I knew the move, he goes, I unlocked the choke and I pushed the kid off the other kid.
Oh, nice.
So, that was what was cool with jiu-jitsu, is that he wasn't defending himself, but he was able to defend somebody else.
Yeah, that's
because he had the confidence, and he knew, the kid's got a choke, so that's not good. So unlock the choke and go.
That kind of I get stuck watching random fight videos on YouTube or on Facebook's little thing where you can watch videos, and it's shocking to me how many people just don't do anything. Like there's something going on in a McDonald's, for example, and everybody just kind of scatters away. Like nobody wants to get involved in conflict.
Because I don't think they want to be involved into the fight.
Makes sense.
They don't know. They wouldn't know what to do if they got into the fight. They don't know.
Or what about those shows? Here's the one thing you'll never catch me on. One of those shows like where they're setting up a fake thing where somebody's getting bullied by somebody or kicking a kid or a dog or whatever, and just to see how they react. Please don't ever put me in that situation. I'm going to kill somebody in that situation where a lot of people are just doing nothing at all. And they ask them after, why did you do nothing? Well, I just didn't want to cause any problems. I didn't want to get involved. I didn't want to, whatever, Seems crazy to me. I think through the confidence of jiu-jitsu, it allows you to see things through a different light. You're not so... I think it's scared, right? So people are scared just of the conflict of the whole thing,
Well, because most people have never actually been into a real life fight or conflict.
Yeah.
They've never experienced what it's like with another person trying to physically attack them.
It's true. The majority of people, that's for sure.
Majority of people have not.
If you've never been in a street fight in your entire life, you've won. Yeah, thank goodness that you're there. So keep that mentality. Street fighting doesn't make it cool. At all. In fact, it's a good way to die.
Mm-hmm. Make a career at that.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else cool in here?
That's it for the questions. Any current events going on in the world? Oh,
man, there is.
One thing I figured that you would really like that I did not send you is, what do you think about them getting Julian Assange from WikiLeaks?
I don't have an opinion on this. Man. So I don't really know. I'm not smart enough.
Because you're all into technology and stuff.
So I don't know. I don't want to.
You don't want him streaming into our podcast right now and
talking about
taking over?
He ain't taking over anything right now. He's stuck in custody. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about all that stuff. I'm not educated enough on most of it to really speak on it.
I figured you'd be all into it.
I follow it.
Yeah.
I follow all that stuff, but it's like my opinion on it doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't mean shit. So, and for me to have an opinion on it seems a little bit weird. Now, I'm an observer more than anything else of most world events.
Now, wasn't it weird? Wasn't he arrested in Ecuador?
Correct.
Something like that. But it was at the England embassy in Ecuador.
Yes.
So he was like a an England citizen.
I think he like pissed him off
But-
eventually. His like cat was going crazy and doing some stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, can't you take care of your cat a little bit? So they were like disgruntled roommates at that point.
Really?
I think. Yep. And
Yeah.
I think they were like, they got a new guy over there, and he was like, yeah, about screw this guy, and that's what happened. I think.
Interesting.
He looked interesting when he came out of there. It looked like
Yeah.
he'd been
It was like follow
like
time.
on an island somewhere for a
Yeah.
while. He's a little rough around the edges. But what about the big heavy rocket that got sent into space? That was a pretty big deal, right?
I didn't see that.
Oh
What
man,
happened?
SpaceX did it. They launched the biggest rocket, like Heavy Falcon something. I'm just screwing it all up. But the Elon Musk rocket's the biggest one that's ever been launched, I'm pretty sure. And I watched it live.
So he did a live launch.
Yep, they launched it, and then all three of the rockets came back down and landed themselves, which is crazy to me. I used to watch that Marvin the Martian back on like Looney Tunes and stuff, and I used to think to myself, as a kid, I'm like, that's not realistic. A rocket doesn't land up like that. It doesn't go
Like perfectly on top.
land. It's bullshit. So as a kid, I was calling bullshit on that, and lo and behold, Elon Musk gets rockets to land themselves backwards like they take off. Great. So I was wrong. I stand corrected. Oops. And to see like the rockets that they're making kind of looks like that Martian rocket. I'm like, wait, is he trolling us? I think he's trolling us a little bit. Just like
He was like,
he
what?
sent a car into space for God's sake. So, and I respect people that troll like that. I mean, but that's trolling like on
Bro.
the highest level.
Bro, there's an ice wall. There's no space.
Oh yeah,
There's no space. I'm curious. I'm not educated in the no space world. Do you know what they say is like up there instead of space? Is it just nothing? Do you know what their argument is?
I've heard several different things, but I'm not exactly.
They think like
sure.
we're in like a snow
I don't
globe
think
and we
that they
can't
don't.
exit.
I don't think they don't think that there's space, or some of them. I think that they think we're moving through space like this, and it creates the gravity or whatever. Why are we discussing this?
I don't know. I'm just
my IQ just dropped 4 points
Yeah.
right there.
probably has.
You know what's crazy is I have friends that work at NASA. I've got friends that work for Tesla, and
Bro,
that
they're
literally
government
do
shields.
rockets, like literally are rocket
Government
scientists. And I asked one guy one time, I was like, "Hey man, because he's friends with me on Facebook. I'm not gonna call you, throw you under the bus here, but it's like because I was arguing with somebody about flat Earth on there or whatever. I was like, "Hey man, you saw me argue with that guy. You liked it or whatever." I was like, why didn't you like chime in or whatever? And he goes, yeah, because I'm, getting people to space and doing stuff for NASA. I don't have time.
I don't have time.
to get into your arguments on Facebook over flat Earth. So, I get it. The people that are smart enough doing that kind of stuff don't have the time to debate with us
But
cronies.
there's a YouTube documentary.
So
Bro, if there's a YouTube documentary, it must be real.
yeah, YouTube.
We're on YouTube. That should tell you something about YouTube.
That should tell you all you need to know
Yeah.
right there.
Still,
YouTube's a wonderful place, and we love it.
It
That's
is
what we were
great.
saying.
great YouTube. But there's just so much information out there. It's like, how do you know what's real and what's not?
Probably a little bit of physics.
But is physics real? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
In that case, is anything real? Wait,
Oh
can
God.
You,
Oh,
can you prove to me that unicorns are not real? Oh, that's it. Unicorns are real.
They
You
have to
heard it
be.
first, right here on the Submitting Live podcast. He can't deny it. You can't give me a good, solid reason that unicorns aren't real, can you?
Mm-mm.
One.
Can you tell me Sasquatch isn't real?
I can tell you that.
Yeah, exactly.
There's very little evidence.
This is the conversation.
Very little evidence
that
for
you
unicorns
guys
or
are-
Sasquatch.
willing to listen to.
God, you guys, I'm sorry. It went astray. All right, we got to get out of here.
We do. We've been going about 15 minutes. We're pretty good.
That's longer than anybody needs to hear
Yep.
us.
All
We'd
right.
like to thank our sponsors, Skylark. Not just the water Skylark, but the place. That's where we're at.
That's where we're doing this wonderful
amazing.
podcast from.
Travis Warren, our good friend and what would you consider yourself? The producer, engineer, and
Mastermind.
drink grabber?
All the above.
Yeah, he does everything back there. He's the brains behind the brawn. Woo!
Mhm.
I meant the brawn. Woo! But if you're following us or whatever, subscribe to us through Patreon. Thank you so much. We're almost to the point where we can buy the same microphones.
Yeah.
It's our first goal is we're gonna get microphones that match, and then and the sky's the limit after that. So
Yeah.
we do appreciate you, and we're gonna be putting more things in there for the subscribers to Patreon because we love you.
We do.
And so some techniques and some stuff like that. If you have some specific things that you would like to see, technique-wise, that is, not just me punching Chase in the face, although I'll do that too. They put them in. Can they put them in the comments? I guess
They can.
How would they do that?
They could. Yeah, they could put in the comment. They can actually.
So no.
No. They can message us directly on Patreon. So if they're like a member,
Do that.
They can message us on Patreon, which would be probably the easiest way because that way we can keep all that separate from like a Facebook comment. Because we get so much stuff on Facebook. Me and Ty, if you message us on Facebook, it's gonna get lost in the ether.
Oh yes, please don't message me on Messenger. It's gonna take
don't-
a year to
yes.
get back to you. There's just no way. And I have another page out there, a Ty Gay page that you can follow, but my normal page is full. So
Yeah.
but it's not like private or anything. You can go look at it, I guess. But you can follow me on that other page, and then go to our Submitting Life one. That's really the place to really connect with us.
Especially if you want us to specifically talk about certain things on the podcast, like specific topics or whatever, post us. You can send us direct messages on that or comment on one of those pages, and we get those way better. It's just between running a jiu-jitsu academy, Ty's band, running this, if you send it to us just through one thing, it gets all mixed up in everything else. So if you send it to us on the direct platform you
I'm
want
gonna
to
lose
discuss
it. Is
on,
what he's gonna say. Yeah.
yes, I'll lose it too. You make
Sure.
me in charge of all that, and it's like I have to funnel through everything.
You know what we didn't talk about?
Hmm.
The black hole is like the biggest thing for humanity, and we forgot about it. No big deal. It's the greatest thing humans have ever seen beyond our in our solar system, right?
How did they actually? Do you know how they actually got a picture of it?
Yeah. Magic.
There's magic, like trolls.
No, some lady came up with
Did she have to come up with, like,
the
an alg-
mathematics that did
Yeah.
it. It's not a real picture, I don't think. It's like a bunch of data that's put together. Data.
How do I know that data?
I don't know what I'm talking about right now. So anyway, my friends from NASA are like, "What is he doing? Why?"
I do know.
Sorry, guys.
I do know she was only like 29 or something like that.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean she's fairly young.
Yeah, and I think that there's been several great women thinkers in space technologies. Like I think the first person to land a rover or whatever was a woman, and all sorts of things like that. Wasn't there like the Netflix special about something like that? And
Yeah. Don't fact check us because we don't know. We don't
because
know
all of our
this.
facts are wrong.
We don't have any facts. It's kind of a rule about this podcast. We kind of just look at it and we just go with it and just see where it
I'm a
happens.
fax machine.
No, we don't.
Okay.
Those aren't even being made
That's
anymore.
not even a fact.
No fax machines.
I got no. The fact is, there's no fax machine or fax.
Mm-hmm.
We're factless. Faxless. Faxless?
Faxless.
I had to make up one new word for the show.
All right, send us off.
All right. We love you. Peace out. Bye.
Bye.